All right, so here I am with Dale and Viraj. We're just talking about how useful Zoom can be. I mean, it's not as good as being, in the same room as somebody. But given that you're in Toronto and I'm in Ottawa, it's probably not a bad substitute. And I did mention to the guys a moment ago that one of the primary uses that we're putting Zoom to is for somebody like me, and maybe for you as well, Viraj. If we're doing a building inspection or we're looking at a property, maybe my clients are, wherever they may be, are looking at purchasing something, we can actually record those sessions on Zoom. I can be in my office, the younger realtors can be showing the property, and then I can make comments on highest and best use, improvements for the property, functionality of the property, and other things, and we have it recorded. And then the renovator, the contractor, the appraiser, whatever, can also access that. So it's pretty useful tool. And I think I was amongst the first 1,000, or maybe it was 2,000 people who ever signed on to Zoom.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I should get a badge.
Yeah.
Because I think they're at like hundreds of millions of users.
Yeah, especially now.
So Dale, what did you think of the ROI group yesterday?
Yeah, that was good. I was able to sit in live, and I know Viraj caught part of it of the recording after. Yeah, it was good. It was great to have seen the property ourselves. So It was great meeting Jonathan and Mark the other day, last week, actually a week ago today. So yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, it was nice to see some of the numbers behind that as well, because obviously I'm curious about that. And but yeah, no, it was good session.
Good. I'm glad you joined, and thank you for doing that. There's 500 people in the group, and maybe 40 people join live, and then a few hundred watch afterwards.
Sure, yeah.
As I explained yesterday, I'm up early, as you know, Dale. I'm usually in the office by about 4:30 or 5, but by the time it gets to 5 or 6 in the afternoon, I'm done.
Yeah, me too.
So thank you for sending the agenda. And as I was reading over your agenda, I kept sinking lower and lower and lower my chair, Dale, because it's really I wasn't really sure where to start. I mean, it's a very broad agenda. It weren't a lot of items in it, but it's a very broad agenda. And so one of the things I thought I might do, if you're okay with that, and remember, this is your coaching session. It lasts 2 hours, and it's pretty intense quite often. So if I'm going down the wrong path, you stop me and we'll change. But I thought maybe the very first thing I would do is I would fill both of you in on something I did not talk about yesterday, which is how the Belleville property was financed through a Mad River structure.
Okay. I did see the video about it, but I think it'd be useful to talk through it, because I shared it with Viraj as well. We did watch it. So I understand the principles.
I'm sure you do, but there's a couple little twists that maybe I should point out. I mean, I'm okay to just skip it, but I think if I understood your emails to me, excuse me, correctly, you have a couple of investors, and I just thought if they're serious about helping you, that is a real big step forward, in my opinion.
Well, I guess part of it really, like, in some respects, I'm kind of moving forward, but I'm also kind of at square one. Like we've had some conversations. We have, like, I say investors, they're people that have come to Viraj primarily to say, help me find a property because I want to invest. So they're coming to him as kind of a real estate agent, just by way of saying, hey, we're looking for a new property. And I see that as an opportunity to sort of either bring them into an investing arrangement or sort of kickstart this business. So, like, I don't know, like, I'm still kind of at square one in terms of just how am I putting myself out there in the marketplace? If I'm putting myself in the marketplace, we haven't, there's also the larger question, well, of we haven't invested anything ourselves, so there's our kind of our own situation. So that's why the agenda is so broad. I feel I kind of need
Right. So
starting points.
so give me a little bit of you know, sailing room, you know, and give me a few minutes. And you asked a great question. How do you get to the first transaction? And I'd like to address that.
Okay.
All right, and then we'll see where we go, because I think just so you guys know, coaching tends to have a growth curve, and I showed Dale this before. That goes, you know, coaching's useful, and then as we get to know each other and trust each other, it tends to go up in value. Oh, this is great, and then it does actually tend to peak at some point. And if it goes on too long, it goes down the other side. So that's why I tend to coach people for 6 months. And not a year or 2 years, because coaching can be a bit of a crutch if you go on too long. So 6 months is generally okay. There are a few people that it took a little bit longer, but between you, Dale, and the Viraj, you know, I don't think there'll be any doubt. But by the end of 6 months, you'll be well along. So how do you get to the first transaction? Well, there's some people who think that you line up the financing, including investors, before you find the right property. And in my experience, that is not usually productive.
Okay.
So like, let's say I was a rich dude. I used to be a rich dude before the Senators cratered, but let's say I was a rich fella and you came to me and said, listen, Bruce, here I am, you know, my name's Dale, and Viraj is a really experienced realtor, and we really know what we're doing. And would you invest, you know, $100,000 with us, or more, or less, whatever it is, you know, and don't worry, we'll find a great property. I find that a very unappealing, you know, presentation.
Right.
Now, there's some people who insist that that's the right way to do it. Line up the money before you find the property. But at least in my experience, that has never been successful.
Okay.
So what I try and do is line up the property first, and then, you know, work on the financing during a due diligence period.
Okay.
On the property in Belleville, I did not have that opportunity.
Right. Because you mentioned you
Yeah,
put down a no conditions offer on that property.
well, Viraj, I don't know if you had time to see that on the presentation I did yesterday, but my wife, Dawn, found the property. I think it was on a Friday. We visited, I think, the next day on the Saturday. We made the offer on the unconditional offer on the Sunday and got the property by noon on Monday, because there were some very wealthy investors from Toronto who were coming down to see it on the Monday, and also a couple from Hamilton. And we probably, if we had waited another 24 hours, it probably wouldn't have been there. So that is an example of what not to do, Dale.
Okay.
So I'm not encouraging you to do that. But because the price was so low, $280,500 for like an 11,000 or 12,000 square foot building, you know, it worked out to about $24 a square foot. And as I said yesterday, you can't build a doghouse for that.
Right, but you had confidence in your own inspection.
Oh yeah, I'm a civil engineer.
Because I walked through it and I thought, like, wow, like, you know, and even going through that other building that Mark showed us, like,
yeah,
you know, I don't have enough experience to understand, like, is this,
yeah, no,
is this like a big giant money pit that I'm looking at, or
yeah, oh yeah, well, it is a big giant money pit. There's no doubt about that. But as I said in the presentation yesterday, probably by the end of next week, I'll have a pretty good idea if I've made a good investment. But I have a lot of experience, and I am a civil engineer. You know, I built about it's close to 2,000 homes and dozens of office buildings and shopping plazas. I don't know how many buildings I bought and renovated. So I have a pretty good feel for this thing, but there's still risk involved. There is. So I'm not recommending that you do what I did, but what would be better in terms of getting to the first transaction would be to find a property that you and Viraj are interested in. I did show one yesterday that a young client of mine bought in Prescott, Ontario. Do you remember that one? It was a little building. It had 2 retail spaces
Yeah.
at grade, and it had 3 apartments up above, and room at the back for another apartment. He bought that for $132,000. And he renovated it for about $135,000. That includes adding another apartment, you know, tarting up the place. You know, it wasn't a really big renovation, and he understands that in terms of leasing the commercial space, he understands that these commercial uses have to be internet resistant, big box resistant, and pandemic resistant. Okay, he understands that. And he understands what type of users those are. And he's had no problem with the building. And the good news is he bought it for $132,000, excuse me. He put in about $135,000 of cash, so he's in about around with land transfer tax around $285,000, and he had it reappraised 6 months after he bought it, and after it had been fixed up, he had it reappraised for $485,000.
After 6 months?
After 6 months.
And
that was a very small project. The Belleville project is going to take, you know, 14 or 15 months.
What businesses did he put in there?
So far, the 2 retail spaces are vacant.
Okay.
Although he has, I'm helping him with a lease on the ground floor with a group that wants to put in a really almost a spa for men.
Okay.
You know, most of the spas, as you guys know, cater to women. You know, I coach a number of people who own spas quite successfully. I don't know how many, but quite a few. And 97% of their client base are female. But this particular place or tenant, a really nice guy, I talked to him yesterday on Zoom, runs a barbering service.
Okay.
It's not called a barber shop; it's barbering service,
Right.
and a haberdashery and a cafe.
Yeah, those are pretty successful in Toronto. So
yeah, oh yeah, you see them all over Toronto. And you know, men now. I mean, you know, when I was, you know, Viraj, I'm 68, but when I was a young man, you know, no man would have, that I knew anyway, would get a manicure or facial, you know, and all the stuff that you know, young men are doing today, and some not so young men. But today, it's a big thing. And this particular individual happens to have, believe it or not, happens to have a location in Belleville.
Right. Okay.
He is literally steps away from the Belleville building. So after we talked about Prescott, I said, "What do you do with your Belleville location?" So those kinds of things are operational, and his 3 main cash engines are barbering service, and people need their haircut, you know, and facials and, you know, creams and that sort of merchandise, haberdashery. And what's interesting about his clothing is he's selling clothing that would have been, you know, quite avant-garde in the 19th century. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but many of the clothes that the well-to-do wore in the 19th century in Europe are much better than the clothes you could buy today. You know, I go to Harry Rosen, well, not anymore, but I used to go to Harry Rosen and buy, you know, a suit for $3,500, or maybe it was $4,000, I don't remember. And, you know, they're very confining, and, you know, they're not really very warm. So if you go out in, you know, Ottawa is much colder than Toronto. So he sells clothes that are kind of I mean, they're a modern update of what you would have seen in the 19th century, you know, wool trousers and real wool trousers and real wool sweaters, not the pretend stuff. So they're much warmer. And anyway, after talking to him for about 45 minutes, he said he wants to move his Belleville location to a bigger location.
Okay.
So you know what that means.
So where's Prescott? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Oh, your building. Oh.
No. He's thinking about opening in Prescott.
Okay.
Prescott's a tiny town on the 401. If Ottawa's here, you go directly south. You get to Prescott. You go a few inches past that, you're in the United States.
Oh, okay.
All right. And if you keep going this way, you eventually get to Belleville, and then you get to Whitby, and then you get to Toronto. All right. so that's one of the uses, and he will do the same thing that we're going to do in Belleville, which is put in a patio out front of his building.
Okay.
And the patio, we're hoping to persuade the town of Prescott to let him run the patio year round.
Hmm.
For the other side of he has 2 retail locations. He's thinking, and I think he's right, we're going to turn that into an Airbnb at grade.
Okay.
All right. Prescott does not have much in the way of Airbnb, and there is some tourism there. Ogdensburg is not very far away. It's right across the river in the United States. So he'll fill those two spaces. But he was able to get an appraisal after he had renovated the place for $485, and he was able to pay himself back and put a little bit of cash in his jeans. I think about $100 grand.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have to take on a project that is a $1.5 million project. You can take on a project that's much smaller.
Yeah, I mean, that's consideration, right? Like, first of all, I don't know. Yeah, so that's an option. I mean, I love, the opportunity to possibly get in on the ground floor with something on Front Street. Like Mark talked to me, I talked with him about the other building across the way, the Duke Pub building there. That owner is a motivated seller. They've already gone through a permitting process. It's well on its way to becoming something. And if the plans for the city evolve as intended, and I feel like this could be kind of the right sort of recipe, but it's also a pretty big project for my first one. So
I understand. I mean, you have to, as a coach, I'm here to facilitate. I'll certainly tell you if I think you're on the wrong track, and I'll reinforce when I think you're on the right track. But the ultimate decision maker are sitting where you are, not me. But Belleville, I think, is the real deal. It's 5 minutes from Prince Edward County, and I don't think you've met Zubin Gillespie yet, have you?
No, but you mentioned him in the thing yesterday.
Let's see if I just have to show you, just because I'm a nosy so-and-so. I'll have to show you Zubin's apartment in Belleville. Just give me a second here. Let's see if I can find it. I think I have it here. Yeah. So let me show you. So Zubin is a developer. He's been in Belleville for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see if I can find his apartment. It's incredible. So he has rebuilt, I think, three or four buildings on Front Street so far.
Okay.
And he's done some beautiful work. And let's see if we can find his place. Oh, here he is. He's an amazing guy. This is Zubin. He's a character. I think he's traveled all over the world, and he settled in Belleville. And you can see he likes murals.
Excuse me.
So this is now we're on the top floor of one of his buildings on Front Street, not very far from the building that Dawn and I bought. This is his balcony. He's got stairs to the parking lot from the balcony. This is just another shot of the balcony. Now we're going inside his third floor home. I guess this is the master bedroom. And I guess you guys were in our building after Mark Turner had started to unveil some of the brick walls there, right?
Yeah.
So Zubin has done something similar here. Look at the floors, and it goes front to back.
Those beams are nice.
There's Zubin. I guess that might be his study. We really like radiant heat. It's a much better heat than forced air. Forced air is just an excuse to get sick. And forced air, as you know, overshoots and undershoots. So it's always too hot or too cold, too hot or too cold. In the wintertime. This is a much better heat, in my opinion. It's not new, obviously, but it is a much better. This was, I guess, just a little work nook. This was his utility room on the 3rd floor in his apartment. Again, just another heater. This is his bathroom, or one of them. I don't know why I took this picture. Here are the stairs leading down to, I guess, the 2nd floor. I mean, look at the quality of his finishes here. Can you believe it?
Where do you get those doors? What is that?
He is a collector. Like, he has traveled all over Asia, all over the world, and he just he's had all of this stuff, Dale, in a warehouse for 25 years. And finally, he settled somewhere and he could deploy it. So he put everything into this apartment.
Beautiful.
There's his tub.
Okay.
I can't remember if this is a walk-in shower. No, it's a step-in shower. So you know the difference between a roll-in shower and a step-in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a step-in. So as he gets older, he'll have to make at least one step. So the roll-in shower does allow somebody in a mechanical wheelchair or with a walker just to kind of roll in, but those are a little bit more expensive. I guess this is the master bathroom. I mean, just look at the details here on the doors. This is some of his art. I guess
this is his own private residence?
This is where he lives, on the 3rd floor of one of the buildings he's renovated.
Quite an elaborate Airbnb.
No, this is not an Airbnb. This is a personal residence. I mean, look at this piece of furniture here. I threatened to steal it. And then look at the built-in bookcases he's put in. You know, look at the floors. Sorry, you know, he's left the original stonework. This building is a new addition. You know, the building that we bought, Dawn and I bought, was built in 1872. This one was built in 1888. So much more recent.
That's right.
So there's his kitchen. Is this extraordinary or what?
Yeah, wow.
And that's, I guess, the dining area. The kitchen is pretty elaborate.
Very nice.
So this is my wife, Dawn, and these are a bunch of my friends here who came with me, and there's Mr. Gillespie again. He's got skylights. I'm not sure I really like skylights, but I understand why he put them in. Because it's a loft with such tall ceilings, you know, even our building has 12-foot ceilings, but here I think it's like 16 or 18 feet. You need ceiling fans to circulate both heat and cold. This is our group, and there's my wife again. This is Mark Turner. And there's Zubin explaining things to us. You know, some of the air circulation is very, very simple. It's just ductwork, and it dumps cold air where it should be. You know, I've never understood why we were putting cold air, you know, 18 inches from the floor, and obviously cold air should fall, so you want it up higher, but whatever. Yeah, he certainly has got it right. Now, this I wanted to show you because this is Zubin's building that is on the other side of the street. So our building and the one I just showed you is on the quote unquote wrong side of Front Street. This building that Mr. Gillespie is renovating right now overlooks the Moira River. And that's really important because the town of Belleville is going to completely renovate along the Moira River. They're going to have, you know, food trucks and play areas and you know, places to launch your kayak, and you know, they're going to be pubs and patios when we can go back to having pubs and patios. Yeah. So these are 2-bedroom units that Zubin is renovating on the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor, overlooking the Moira River, that he tells me he's going to put on Airbnb next year. And surprisingly, Airbnbs in small towns like Belleville are doing very well. And that is a surprise, because if you have an Airbnb in downtown Toronto, you might as well shoot yourself. There's nothing to do in downtown Toronto right now. You know, the Princess of Wales Theatre is closed, right? You know, there's no movie theaters, there's no clubs to go to, no nightclubs to go to. You know, most of the pubs have had to close, or it's just not the same. But apparently, and it's true, in smaller towns where you can go for, you can still do it. You can go to Prince Edward County and do a wine tour. Prince Edward County is 5 minutes away, or you can go to sandbanks, you know, go to the beach. You know, I mean, that people want to do stuff like that, right? And you can't do that in downtown Toronto now, unfortunately, or downtown Ottawa. But Airbnbs, the people I coach who have Airbnbs literally in the middle of nowhere are doing fantastically well. So these are just more pictures here. This is Zubin showing Don what he's doing in this apartment. And again, the ceiling heights here are pretty good, not as high as on the other side of the street. So they're not 12 feet, but they're 10 feet, which is a nice thing to have. And he's going to leave the brickwork exposed, which I think is smart. He's pretty well organized. You know, his tools go where they go. And I'll just go through this. You know, he has had to break through some of these original stone walls to open it up a little bit. He has created, you know, sort of what will be a sunroom / porch here. And this is the money shot. So he will be building here balconies and patios and decks overlooking the river. Right. And he tells me on his 2-bedroom units for next year, he's going to get $400 a night for a two bedroom.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, I even if it's half that, it's still really good.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's we did an Airbnb in Prince Edward County this summer as well with our friends, and yeah, it's definitely the experience. And there's not really hotel options anyway, so there's not the market.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I really don't like hotels. Never have.
No, and I think with the pandemic, it's people want that experience anyway. So
yeah,
a place like that you're seeing with the brickwork and stuff like that is very appealing and
very appealing. And one of the things that I think he will do, because I've advised Zubin and coached him a little bit, is at least one of these, and probably both of them, are going to be themed as romantic getaways. Right. Okay. And because I have one other young woman I coach in Quebec, she has themed her Airbnb as a romantic getaway, and she's doing fantastically well. And you know, people want time to get away and to be with their partner and to enjoy, you know, life, because life is not easy. And so, you know, $400 a night for 3 nights, whatever, $1,200, you'll have a nice weekend. So what I wanted to show you though was how you could at least consider structuring your deal if you bought one building in Belleville. And so I'm going to just show you this. So this is the building again that we bought. As you guys know, this ugly aluminum siding is coming off, and this horrible brick veneer is coming off, and we're going to renovate this building quite extensively. So how did we finance it? It's pretty simple, and Viraj, you would know this, and I'm sure Dale too, to get 65% loan to value financing for just about anything. You know, there's lots of lenders out there. Not A lenders, may I say. All right, so this is not a 65% loan to value mortgage from the Royal Bank of Canada at 1.2%. It is not. These B lenders are lending on first mortgages anywhere from about 3.9% to 8.9%, depending on how strong your financial statement is and how much they like you and on the project. So it's not cheap financing. It's really between 4 and 8% money. So it's expensive, but it's fast. So that's pretty much a no-brainer, and you might be able to do better. Now, Mad River financing, as you guys know, is about the entrepreneurs. In this case, my wife and I are the entrepreneurs. In your case, it would be you two guys. And we're putting in some cash, but mostly sweat equity. All right. And And so what we asked our partners to do, we have 4 partners, and they had to put in just a tiny amount of equity. So Dawn and I chipped in $25,000 of equity, and each of the partners put in around $4,000. It says 12,000 here, but it was actually 16,000, so I apologize. It's not quite right. So the numbers aren't quite right here, but you'll have to bear with me because this was an old slide deck. So we put in $25,000, and we own, I'll just go with the numbers that are on the screen. We own 2/3 of the property, and our partners put in $12,495, and they own 1/3 of the project. And you say, well, that's a tiny amount of equity. Yes, that is correct. However, each of the partners loaned the project $40,000. All right. And that loan can be in 2 ways. It can be secured as a second mortgage on the property, or it can simply be a promissory note signed by you, Dale, or by you and Viraj. Okay. And it probably is easier and quicker if it's just promissory notes, because these days some of the first mortgage lenders, even the B lenders and C lenders, don't like second mortgages. So the guys who helped me out on this project are all pals of mine. So they loaned, it was actually 4 of them, but for the purpose here, I'll just say 3. They loaned the project $40,000 each at 8% interest cumulative. So you don't actually pay any monthly interest, and it's not due until the end of the promissory note, which is 3 years from now. So it's kind of free money for 3 years, right? But it's not cheap. And I'm not saying that you can't do better than this, but this is pretty typical because we've done hundreds of deals like this. All right, we're arranging for a construction mortgage right now of about 1.3 million, and to get that, we need to have an appraisal done which supports a value of at least $2 million. Maybe it's a little bit more than $2 million, as if it was complete. And so we have an appraiser right now. He's working on that. His name is Michael Kottman. And once we have that, we can draw down up to $1.3 million in construction lending. The net operating income I originally estimated at about $216,000 when the building is complete. But when I did the numbers again, it's a little bit less than that. I don't think we're going to get to the 200,000 mark. I said that yesterday. We're going to probably be around 196,000. The total cost of the project actually has come in a little bit less than 1.6 million. It's closer to 1.5 million. The cap rate is 13.1%. This shows 13.6. So we didn't quite get to where we thought we would get, but we were close. CBRE estimates that the cap rate that applies to small towns in Ontario, like Belleville, is around 5.5%. And when you apply that to a net operating income of over $200,000, you get a fair market value after completion next year of about 3.9 million. That is too high. It turned out to be closer to 3.5 million. So if you think about it, we bought the property for 280. We're going to put in about 1.2 or 1.3 million. The cost will be about 1.5, and we think it'll be worth at the end of next year around $3.5 million. So if we put in a 65% loan to value takeout mortgage, which will be at a much lower interest rate. So I'm okay. This is just me talking, Dale. This is not necessarily for you, but for me, I'm okay paying, 4 or 5% on a first and 8% on those additional monies that have helped us fund this, but not forever. For a year, or in this case, about 15 months, I'm okay with that. And then there'll be a takeout mortgage probably at around 3.5%. The idea, or maybe it could be 4%, but the idea of a commercial mortgage, and Viraj would know this, I'm sure, at 2% or 1.7%, that at least for me is not, and most of my clients, I think, is not realistic. I do have a couple of billionaire clients, Viraj, who are able to do their own, raise their own money in the hundreds of millions, in fact, even in the billions of dollars at a very low interest rate, but they're in a completely different category than most of the people I coach, including myself. All right, does that make sense?
Can I ask a question?
Of course, anytime.
With these other mortgages that you would apply for, do the promissory notes showing like money you owe? Like, will that affect how much you can get?
So, no, they don't show anywhere. They just show up on my personal balance sheet.
Okay.
Right. So the reason we didn't, I asked my friends and investors if they're okay if I sign the promissory note and don't register a second mortgage. No problem. We don't care. I mean, we got you on the hook, Bruce. But they do understand. It shows, at least as far as the mortgage lenders are concerned, it's more equity on the project. And it's not a lie, Viraj. That is true. I mean, I owe the money to these people individually, but I don't have to show it on the balance sheet for the project because it's not on the balance sheet of the project.
So this isn't, you're not doing this through a corporation then?
Well, that's a very, very good question. And you guys might not like this advice, but I own all of my properties in my own name. Okay. And my wife's name. You know, I have 5 kids. I think you know that, Dale. And I have at least one kid on virtually every one of my properties after they're complete and the financing's all done and everything else, as a joint tenant. I'm a lot older than you guys. So if I pass away, you know, hopefully not until we finish coaching, right? But if I pass away, you know, Viraj, you know what joint tenancy is, right? Yeah. So in joint tenancy, Dale, when a person passes away, he or she is simply deleted from land titles. So let's say you two guys owned a property together, you know, Dale and Viraj, and you know, you're in joint tenancy, and one of you many years from now passes away. Your lawyer can simply go to land titles and you're deleted from land titles. There's no land transfer tax. There's no executors involved. There's no bankers involved. There's no lenders involved. There's no accountants involved. There's no Canada Revenue Agency involved. You know, you simply are deleted from land titles, and the other party owns it. Now, if the two of you and Dawn and I owned property together, we would not be joint tenants. You two could be joint tenants as to your, say, 50% ownership, and Dawn and I could be joint tenants as to our 50% ownership, but the two couples would be tenants in common, so that if I pass away and Dawn passes away, our 50% ownership goes to our heirs and assigns. It doesn't go to you guys. We're not related. I have clients, you know, I only have a couple of clients who are billionaires, but I have quite a few clients who are worth a few $100 million, and many who are worth, you know, $5, $10, and $50 million. And many of them have very extensive corporate structures, and it's very complicated. And I also had that when I had a much bigger company and I was worth more money, you know. And when the Sens failed in 2004, 2005, I found that I think I had 21 or 22 individual companies, which really didn't have much to do anymore because, you know, all of the properties that we owned kind of ran away. And it costs money to keep a company alive. You have to do financial statements every year. You have to do corporate income tax every year. You have to do, maybe I already said this, tax filings, and there's certainly legal compliance work that you have to do. It can cost anywhere from $2,500 to $6,500 or more a year to keep a company alive. So I had 21 or 22 of them. And I looked at it, I was, oh my God, I'm spending over $100,000 a year keeping this huge structure alive for no reason at all. And so I have, over the last 14 years, I have killed off all except one. And the one that I still have, Dale, is I only own it because it owns a classic car that I own is owned through that company. But if I didn't have that car, and I'm never giving that car up, it's an old Saab that I baby along, and they don't make them anymore. So I'm fond of it, so I keep it. But if it didn't actually have that registration, I'd kill that one too. So all of the properties that I own are in my personal name, my wife's name, and my children's name. And it is true, your accountant will tell you this, and your lawyer will tell you this, your banker will tell you this, that if it was in a company, you might pay less tax.
Right.
That is true. But when I looked at the cost of maintaining those companies versus the few dollars that I might save on my income tax, I just said, no, I'm going to go with something simple.
Okay.
And one other thing, if I could teach you one thing, it will be that complexity is the enemy of success.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that.
The other thing too that I would add, but you have to get your own legal advice and accounting advice, but don't substitute anybody else's judgment for your own. Use your own judgment. Don't just listen to, every banker, accountant, and lawyer thinks they're a businessman or a businesswoman. They are not. They are bankers, they are lawyers, and they are accountants, but they know practically nothing about running a business.
Right.
And so I believe in the KISS principle, keep it simple. So that's what I do. And also, I really believe this is a fantastic way of passing on your property to each other, as well as to any heirs that you may have by adding people as joint tenants. Okay. The other thing that joint tenancy does, and Raj certainly as a realtor would know this, is it provides you with some protection as you get older. So Dale, let's say you're a really old guy and you're maybe not quite as with it as you are today. And a caregiver says to you, hey, there's a new miracle treatment that will, make you a 35-year-old guy again. It costs $1 million. I need the cash. And you ought to remortgage one of your properties and give me that $1 million. And you think, oh, that's a great idea. I want to be 35 again. Well, it's obviously a hoax. This actually happened to one of my older clients. If Viraj is on title with you as a joint tenant, he has to sign off on that. And he's going to say, I don't think I'm going to sign off on that, Dale. That sounds like, selling ice to the Inuit in the north. We're not going to do that. So there is some elder protection in it too.
Okay.
All right. So once this structure once about 15 months from now, if all goes well, we're hoping to take out somewhere between $500,000 and $960,000 out of this building in Belleville, tax-free, right? That's the objective.
Okay.
Now, when we do that, there's another thing that's an important part of this model, okay, guys? And that is, it's a non-partnership partnership model. Even though I have actually 4 partners in it, the idea is that with that money that's coming out, they'll get their money back, their $40,000 plus whatever interest is owing. But the other thing that they could do, or I could do, is I could value the property at that point, which I will have done, and offer to buy them out with that money.
Right.
So that because the long-term goal for me and Don is to own this building 100%. And by the way, they all know it.
Yeah, you've made those intentions and expectations clear.
Exactly. Now, having said that, they've all asked me to coach them to do a similar project for themselves. So that the best partnerships, I think, are ones, let's say you had those 2 investors who are wanting to participate, is you might end up doing 3 projects, you guys might own one of them 100% at the end of the day. And each of the other investors, the other 2 investors, would own 1 each. So that it's a non-partnership partnership. It's a partnership or a co-venture while you're developing all of this cool stuff. But the idea is to separate out after, could be 2 or 3 years, could be 6 or 7 or 8 years. But the intention is not for you to have, a 60% ownership in this building, 30% ownership in this building, and a 30% ownership in that building. The idea is to have 100% of one, and each of your 2 investors would have 100% of their own.
Right.
So that I'm coaching a lot of people to go into these partnerships with the idea of not being in long-term partnerships, because you've heard me say this before, there's still 2 chairs in heaven waiting for the first 2 partners to get there and like each other.
Right. So so that would be a strategy of sort of working with, if we had a couple of investors sort of laying out the kind of the broad strokes of this plan to have multiple properties with equity and ownership for each in that arrangement? Is that, sorry, are you kind of laying that out kind of up front? Like, here's the big scheme, like this is the first property and then there'll be a second and third? Or are you really sort of, am I really sort of approaching each one as, you know, here's the first one, we look at it on its own merit, and then, you know, down the road, it's like, okay, well, why don't we do a second one? Like, is it?
Yeah, I said to the four partners that we have in Belleville that they would each like to do one, and but the focus, you know, you can't do. I mean, I don't have the capacity, you know, to do four at the same time.
Right.
Generally speaking, as you know, if you try and do 2 or 3 things at one time, you know, something's going to suffer.
Yeah.
So the focus is 100% get this thing done. Like what, Viraj, what's a half finished house worth? I think it has a negative value.
Well, depends who's buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I suppose, but there you go. So yes, so there's the promise of doing more, but there's no requirement.
Right.
Okay, so you say, look, if this, hey, listen, if this is not successful, we're not doing any more. But you know, we've done now, at least clients of mine have done at least a dozen of these in small towns in Canada, the United States. If I added up, it might be 15 or 20 of them. And everyone so far has been successful for the reasons I said yesterday. You have to be within an hour or 2 of a major center like Toronto. It's no use doing this in Tuktoyaktuk.
Yeah.
You know, it probably won't work in Tuktoyaktuk. I don't really know that, but I would assume not. So within an hour or 2 of Toronto, and certainly Belleville's within an hour or 2, and, you know, and I've got clients doing it in Los Angeles, in what do they call the, oh my God, the Inland Empire. It's actually called the Inland Empire. And they're very successful. People want to move to smaller towns. Like I said yesterday, if they can earn San Francisco or LA salaries or Toronto salaries and live in Whitby, that's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, you know, when I think about kind of where to from here, I still kind of go back to my initial question. I'm not quite sure how to, and maybe I'm missing a financing plan or something, but how do we get to the first thing? And I'm not even quite sure what the first thing is, right? I see potential opportunity, you know, certainly the Front Street is an opportunity. I'd like to, you know, continue, you know, looking at that, you know, but then there's other things too. So we spent some time in Cobourg on our way to Belleville. So we looked at some properties there. That's also, to me, you know, maybe a little more expensive than Belleville, but still, you know, very attractive, very cute, very quaint, lovely little town. Certainly
Love
a place
that place.
I'd want to, you know, it's only an hour from Toronto, so certainly
Fabulous.
where people could move out to, possibly even Airbnb. So anyway, so like I guess the point is, like, there's a myriad of options on the table. You know, we haven't even looked at Southwestern Ontario.
I think the first thing I think you guys have to think about is, what is your business model, right? Like running you know, running an office building is very different than running, you know, sort of like a triplex. I mean, it's as different as running a shoe store or running Facebook. I mean, they're quite different. So I think you have to ask yourselves, both of you, and together, what is it that you're passionate about?
Well, I think the strategy speaks more to, you know, income and cash flow.
But that's not enough, Dale. To say I want money is that's very important, but it's not enough.
Right.
You know, like what I don't want you and Viraj to do is do a random walk in the real estate business, because people get really, really good at stuff if they do it over and over again. But if every time you do a project, it's different than the previous one, I mean, really different. You know, you built a shopping center, you built an office building, you built a house, you built or renovated a building like 249253 Front Street. Those are very different business models, and you're not really learning from one project to the next because they're all so different. So I do think you have to ask yourself, what is it that you're passionate about?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I love the idea of transforming, unlivable spaces into livable spaces. I haven't done it, but obviously the transformational aspect of it is appealing, and as is, my background is technology, and I like the idea that you could, tech enable a lot of properties in many different ways that both make it an exciting experience for the occupants, but also cost effective for me, the owner or the manager. So, so I don't know, like, but I see those being applied in different ways, right? Like you could apply it to a commercial property, like.
So can I show you another model just to open your minds a little bit?
Okay.
But before I do that, Viraj, if Dale was a client rather than a husband, what would you say to him about how to get started in real estate investing?
Well, I keep asking him, how are you going to approach people to invest, and how are you going to charge them? Like, how they're going to want to know, like, what do I have to give you?
Well, okay, so that's a conversation we keep having about, like, if I'm starting a business, helping people invest is one thing, and then the other thing is investing ourselves in what we want to do, right?
Like, I'm a
So go ahead, Viraj. Sorry, Viraj, go ahead, keep going.
Like, I'm always like a little bit suspicious about anyone that wants to help me do something. So I'm always like asking, what do they get out of this? Like, how you're gonna do this for me, but how much do I have to pay you? Because I know there's a cost to everything.
So there are two different types of investors. There are investors who are just looking for return on investment, and there are partners who want to have a say in the business. I like the former, and I don't like the latter. So my strong recommendation to you, Dale, would be that you're interested in investors who will just say, okay, here's my money. I want a return on my money for sure. And the investors might say, I would like to learn from you. Like, I would like to learn how you're doing this so that I can do it on my own, which is what my four guys are doing, right? The $40,000 or $50,000 that each of these guys gave us, these are wealthy guys. Like, that's like, me buying a McCafe coffee for each of you guys, right? That I can afford. For these guys, $40,000 or $50,000 is very, very small amount of money. They're all worth well north of 10 or 20 million. And I think one or two of them is 50 or 60 million. So really the reason they did it, Viraj, was to learn something, because they like the model. And these guys have the resources to take mainstream makeovers right across Canada and the United States, because they really like it. And the one thing about Main Street makeovers, Dale, that you may or may not know, is this is one of the few real estate models that travels.
Yeah.
So if you told me that you were going to build a mega mall in Toronto, worth a couple of $1 billion, you really have to know a lot about the city. You have to know about the politics, the local councillors, the zoning bylaws, how to navigate through an incredibly labyrinth like planning system. Real estate is a very local business. You guys know that. But Main Street makeovers are not, because you're renovating existing property in demand on main streets for people who want to have a different lifestyle. They do not want to get in their car in the morning at 5 a.m., drive an hour and a half or 2 hours on the, what's the main drag there? What's it called in Toronto? The 401?
The 401.
But there's also, there's the other one too.
The 407?
Yeah, the 407.
Oh, no.
Like one of my daughters lives in Toronto. She's now a pretty senior executive for a large insurance company. You know, she has to drive, I think, an hour and a half every day. Oh, not now because of the pandemic, but before the pandemic, she was spending 3 hours a day in a car, and she is hoping to get married and have a family. Well, imagine 3 hours a day. You know, that's a lot of wear and tear on a person. So so people really do want a lifestyle change. And so if you owned 10 Main Street makeovers in 10 different cities, you could manage that. Whereas you could not do 10 different cities and 10 different developments that from scratch. That is not realistic. I don't know if you guys remember Olympia in York. Olympia in York, a generation ago, was the most successful real estate company in Canada. It was run by the Reichman family out of Toronto. They owned fabulous properties in downtown Toronto and downtown New York, very successful. Then they decided to build Canary Wharf in London, England, and they failed and they went bankrupt. There's a company worth 11 or 12 billion dollars, and a few years later, kaput. So, you know, and the reason for that is what they didn't understand about London and about England is that commercial tenancies in London they write 25-year leases. So if you're hoping to convince big companies that are in the city inside London to move to Canary Wharf into these beautiful new buildings that they built there, they would say, sure, no problem. We'll come and we'll sign a lease with you, but we have 17 years left on our lease in the city. Hope you don't mind. Well, last time I checked, you know, that's a long time. And they went broke. But Main Street makeovers are something that you know, whether it's Prescott or Cobourg or Belleville or Boise, Idaho, I've got clients doing it in Boise. It does travel. And I want to show you another one that does as well. This is very different. This is, you might not be able to see it too well, but this is, I'll just try and make it a little bit bigger. This is an 80,000 square foot industrial building in Kitchener-Waterloo. Can you see it okay?
Yeah, 8,000 or 80?
80.
It shows 8,000 here because that's the first part of the building that was redeveloped, but the whole thing is 80,000.
Wow, okay.
Okay, and this is a client of mine in Kitchener-Waterloo. His first name is Shaddy, and he bought this building before he started coaching with me because it was so cheap. You know, he's a young man. He's only 34 or 35 and very successful and really smart. So have you got a calculator there?
Yeah.
He bought it for $1.2 million.
Okay.
And it's 80,000 square feet. What does that work out to per square foot?
15.
Yeah, he did even better than the Belleville project. You know, I mean, $15 a square foot. But here's why he was able to buy it so cheap. It only has 10-foot ceiling heights. If you know anything about industrial buildings, most industrial users want 18 or 20 or 24 foot height, and Amazon's new fulfillment centers are 60 feet.
Yeah.
And Wayfair is talking about 90 foot. You know, because what Amazon and Wayfair do in their fulfillment centers and many industrial users is they work in 3 dimensions, right?
Yeah.
It's not, Dale, it's not you on a ladder going up 60 feet to pull a CD or a book off a shelf. You know, it's all automated. It's all these machines that do that. So they store and sort and everything. These are robots that move around these huge buildings, 60-foot ceiling height. And I'm not sure if Wayfair is going to do it, but they're at least threatening to do 90 feet. This has got 10-foot 2 ceiling heights. And so anyway, so Shaddy came to me and said, oh my God, I bought this building. It's completely empty. What do I do with it, Bruce? I said, aha, I'm glad you called. And I said, this is a gold mine. He said, you gotta be kidding. This thing is a loss. I mean, it's a mess. What do I do with it? But as soon as I saw this picture that Shaddy sent me of the inside of this building, I knew he had a huge winner on his hands. He just didn't know the right business model. So what we did, what we talked about, is dividing it up into small workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard me say, Dale, before, and I'm sure you've read some of my stuff, that today, even before the pandemic whacked the planet, we were heading towards a gig economy. But that was before the pandemic, and since the pandemic, it is off the charts. 8.2 million Canadians were on the CERB benefit, the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, and over 40 million Americans on unemployment insurance. Think about that. And hundreds of thousands, and in the United States, millions of them are starting gigs. So I said, oh my God. So we did some hand sketching, and what's really great about this building is it's got this, it's long and skinny, which is perfect. Imagine, Viraj, imagine if this thing was actually 80,000, but it was a square building, right? Then all the interior space would not have any windows, and it wouldn't have any ingress and egress. So I said, oh my God, Shaddy, we're going to divide this thing up into tiny workshops with their own ingress and egress. Are you following me so far, boys?
Yeah, for sure.
And so literally a week later, there was Shaddy going in there with his construction crew and starting to demise this thing for micro workshops. And you'll see the pictures here. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
And as fast as he could build these suckers, he could fill them as fast as he could. He has one guy in there who runs a golf simulator club. You know, he has a golf simulator in there, and he's decked out his workshop, you know, as a man cave, right? You know, photos on the walls. I won't tell you what kind of photos, but photos on the walls, the big screen TVs, the foosball, you know, so that's a pretty big workshop. That one's 1,500 square feet, but most of them are between 500 and 800 square feet. He's got a lady in there who makes specialty soaps. He's got another lady in there, just a beautiful young woman who makes really funky clothes. And I think she's got like 4 seamstresses in there going full out. He's got another guy in there who's doing, got a woodworking shop, and he does some woodworking classes. Unfortunately, now it has to be on Zoom. I don't know how you teach woodworking on Zoom, but apparently he's found a way. So, I mean, this is, you know, I mean, the idea of the workshop has really arrived. Mm-hmm. And this morning, I got word that there's going to be a webinar, a Zoom webinar, another one, in Ottawa. This is just Ottawa, that the Ottawa economy on the industrial side is booming. And that is true right across Canada. Stats Canada reported a 20% increase in industrial production in Canada in the first 7 months of this year. Can you believe that?
Yeah,
So get your calculator out again, Dale. Let's do some numbers here, okay? We're going to just do some simple math, okay? So let's just make it easy. It's 80,000 square feet. And let's say they're all 800 square feet. So he'll end up with 100 micro workshops here. He's been renting them out at $685 each, plus $85 for the tech package, which is just internet and Wi-Fi, because everybody wants that. $685 a month, plus $85 for internet and Wi-Fi. And right now he hasn't sub-metered them, although he probably is going to have to, and he's charging another $55 a month for hydro. So what does that total up to?
So 55 and 85 and 685? So it's 825 per unit once you add those things.
Yeah. And multiply that by 100.
Yeah, so it's 82,500.
And multiply that by 12.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's almost $1 million.
I think it is. And now multiply that by 0.66, because you lose about 34% for OPEX, operating expenses.
Oh, right. Okay.
You know, so multiply by 0.66, what do you get?
653.
And the cap rate on this will be, again, 5.5%. So divide that by 0.055.
Yeah, 11 million. Almost
Yeah.
12.
Yeah. We think, now there's some costs he's going to incur because the fit up is not free. It's costing him about $8,500 for each one of these units. So he has about $850,000 in costs.
Yeah.
So he will be at about $2 million into this building, but he thinks he'll get about a 10.5 or $11 million valuation. That is life-changing.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, actually.
That is incredible. And I told him that's better than my Belleville project. I'm hoping for a multiple of 2, but I think he's going to get a multiple of 4 or 5.
Well, I think there's an opportunity there for, you could get even better pricing if he, you know, took some of those and did a bit of a, you know, service model, a WeWork approach, or, you know, not all of them have to be committed, right? You could commit.
Oh my God, you are absolutely right. In fact, I own a commercial building where when I saw, you know, I've been coaching Shaddy and I said, Shaddy, you don't mind if I do it in one of my buildings? Because I own a small industrial building. It's not very big. And I've been doing it in one of my buildings. And it's you know, I have to tell you, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I like industrial users. They're salt of the earth. They don't complain. You know, if there's some problem, 9 times out of 10, or probably 95 times out of 100, they're going to fix it themselves rather than call you. It's not like having an office building. I used to build office buildings, and Viraj, if you've ever dealt with office tenants, they're prima donnas. I mean, they are like, oh my God, every day they're complaining about something, you know. I don't like the smell in the elevator. Oh, okay. Well, it happens to be a big fat guy was next to them when they were going up to the 30th floor. Well, okay. Don't go up the elevator with that guy next time. Well, the air circulation in the elevator should be, well, give me a break. I can't do anything about that. So no, I'm not kidding. I get complaints like that when I used to own office buildings. But this is a wonderful business model, and this is not the only guy I'm coaching doing. I've got another group that did it. They bought a building literally in the middle of nowhere. I'll show it to you in a minute. And it has been a phenomenal success. And this is another one of those models, Dale, that travels. Like a micro workshop in Boise, Idaho, or in Long Beach, California, or in Nashville, or in Austin, or in Toronto, or in Cobourg. You know, they're all, you know, you're selling apples.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I see the scalability of it. I think there's always an aspect of the local market you have to understand, right? Like, I would know, you know, Mark, for example, Mark Turner, you know, that guy is like, you know, an encyclopedia of, you know, knowledge about Belleville, right? So
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't dare dream, I wouldn't, the idea of buying a commercial property on Front Street wouldn't not at all be attractive to me if I didn't know that there was, you know, you were there or Mark was there. I'm not assuming that you're involved intimately, but just, you know, the fact that
coach, you know, coaching
right,
is a very,
you
know, forgive me for saying it, but coaching is a very intimate thing. I mean, it really is. You know, you're trusting me with your personal balance sheet, and you know, my wife says I take it seriously, and maybe even too seriously, because you know, a bad coach can. I mean, Viraj, you don't trust people easily. I can tell that a bad coach can ruin your life.
Right.
He or she can really hurt you. Let me show you another one though, just to make sure that you guys understand. You don't have to have $1 million to do this. This is another project clients of mine did on Aikens Road in Canada, which is at the west end of Ottawa. You can see my sign still up. This is Google, right?
Right.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just move over a little bit. But before I do that, when I said this is in the middle of nowhere, look at this. Okay,
Yeah.
this is Viraj in the middle of nowhere. And Dale, you and I share, I'm sure, many things in common, but one thing in common is I'm like you. I like taking on projects that maybe nobody else wants.
Mm.
You know, like most people, I mean, would, if they had gone into that, I mean, that Belleville building had been for sale for a few hundred days, you know. So, you know, and if you had gone in there even before, you know, Mark Turner started cleaning it up, it was incredible, the mess they left it in. And it's shameful what they did to that. It's a glorious building. It's shameful what they did to a piece of history.
Mm.
Anyway, so this building is an 18,000 square foot warehouse. You can see it here. And it's got a coverall building here. I don't know if you can see, there's a farmhouse sort of peeking back here.
Yeah.
And this had been for sale, excuse me, for about 400 days.
Okay.
And they were asking, I think, about 980,000 for it. It's about 18,000 square foot warehouse. It's got the old farmhouse. It's got 2 coverall buildings. And I'm going to back off and just give you the perspective so you can see it.
For everything, they wanted 980?
Yeah, for the whole thing. So
Okay.
you can see it's literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's 2 acres of industrial land. It's got this 18,000 square foot warehouse building here, the coverall building. There's the farmhouse, and there is another coverall. If we swing around, okay, oops. If we swing around a bit, see if I can, oh shoot. I don't know if I can do it. Oh, well, too bad. But if I pan out a little bit further, you can start to see there are people here. This is called Stittsville. This is called Canada. This location here, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but that's where the Canadian Tire Center is. That's an arena I built a long time ago now for the Ottawa Senators. And then there's some folks over here in Barrhaven, all right? But, you know, it's about 14 or 15 minutes away from the nearest, you know, home, basically, okay? Yeah. And oh, we can, oh, I didn't know that I could get to the backyard here. Google's incredible. Or maybe I'm in the wrong place. Oh, what the heck? I don't know where I am. So apologize, boys. Anyway, I'll go back here. Oh, here we are. Okay. So anyway, you'll just look at the satellite view. So it's 2 acres of land in the middle of nowhere, and it was being sold by a large company. And that's your first clue, Sherlock. When you see something that's been on the market, Viraj knows this, for 400 days, and DOM, it shows up on MLS as days on market, that's good news. And then the second clue is that it's owned by a large company. You can take advantage of large companies because, you know, they don't really care about little stuff like this. So they were asking 980,000 for it, and it had been on the market a long time, and it was empty. No tenants whatsoever. So nobody wanted it. Middle of nowhere, you know. So I went to 3 of my clients, Chris Miller, Warren Beatty, and Mark McDonald, and I said, you ought to buy this. And they asked me, Viraj, you know, if I was in my right mind. Why would you ever buy a property with no tenants? And there was something else that you need to know about this. See if I can find the picture so I can actually show you. I hope I can find them without taking too much of your time. I think I've got it. Yay. Yeah. Give me a sec here. I wish I'd had more time to prepare. Yeah, I have. So, so this was what it looked like when we went into the place. Modern Niagara, which owned it, had left it in a shambles, just like, you know, the Belleville property. And this one is a little bit higher ceiling height than the last one I showed you. But the ceiling height here is only 11 feet. So what I did was I talked to Mark and Chris, and here's the old farmhouse. And there's the coverall building. Anyway, enough of that. So what I talked to Mark and Chris and Moira about was the micro workshop model. And this is now 7 years ago. And I said, no, you should not buy this and hope that you'll find an 18,000 square foot industrial user who wants 11-foot ceiling heights. I said that you could wait 5 years and it would be empty. But what if we were to break it up into micro workshops from 400 square feet to 800 square feet to 1,200 square feet? What do you think about that? And they said, that's kind of an interesting model, but we don't have $960,000 to spend on a building like that. I didn't say you should spend $960. I said, let's offer them $250,000. Then they really were ready to call the the guys who wrap you up in the straitjacket and take you away. I said, well, what the hell? I don't know about you, Viraj, but I'm not afraid of getting kicked out of places. And these days you can do it on Zoom, so they can't even kick you out. But it doesn't bother me. If you've ever owned a hockey team in Canada, you'll get a lot of criticism. So I'm not saying I'm immune to it, but it doesn't really bother me much.
Okay.
So anyway, we drew up an offer for $250, and I knew the owner of Modern Niagara, and Modern Niagara is a really big company. So I went to their head office and I presented the offer, and he said, well, this is a joke. I said, no, I don't think so. It's been for sale for over a year. And, obviously nobody else wants it. I'm not sure what my clients are going to do with it. And Viraj, as you know, because I didn't represent them, they had their own representation. They had their own lawyer representing them. I could treat them as a customer. So I can't lie to them. I wouldn't lie to people, but I don't have to share with them the business model. Right? I don't have to tell them this is a potential gold mine you're sitting on. I'm not going to tell them that. I'm representing the buyer only. And Viraj, I only represent buyers or sellers. I do not allow myself to be in multiple representation. This is just my own personal bias. There's probably 120,000 realtors in Ontario, and most of them hate my guts because I've actually said to the Ontario Real Estate Association and to the CREA that we should ban multiple representation, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And I get a lot of crap from my own company. Oh, well, we want to double end everything. I said, no, we are either going to represent buyers or sellers, but not both. And because I don't want to be in a conflict of interest. So I only represented the buyers, and I said, look, it's been for sale for a long time. And the president of the company is very nice, actually. He didn't kick me out. He said, it's way too low. We're not even going to counter that. No. I said, okay, best of luck. And that was September 7 years ago, so it would have been, I think, 2013. So I went back and I said, yeah, the offer was rejected. And they said, well, we expected that. I said, but I'm not going to give up. Let's wait. And so I resubmitted the offer in, I think, the first week of December. By the time we get to December or January, most Canadians want to kill themselves. And I went back to see the president and I said, I'd like to present the offer again. He said, well, is it any higher? I said, no. But I said, I said, look, it's likely to be for sale for another year or two. You're just paying the property taxes and maintaining it. It's empty. It's going to start to degrade. It's already a bit of a mess inside. You know that. You didn't leave it in a good condition. Oh, well, he said, we plan to clean it up in the spring. I said, right, sure. And I said, surely a company that does a few $100 million a year in business has better things to do than waste your friggin' time cleaning up an old building that you can't use anymore. And he agreed. And he sold it to the boys for $250,000 in January or February of that year. So it would have been 2014. The boys cut it up into small workshops of 400, 800, 1,200, and 1,500 square feet. We had the entire thing leased up in 8 or 9 months. One of the coverall buildings I rented to Denchem, a small coverall building in the back I rented to Instant Lawns. I rented the farmhouse to an environmental company, and every workshop filled up. So this is long before the pandemic hit us. And they got it reappraised in 2019, so last year, yeah, for 1.95 million. And so they bought it for 250, and they put 450,000 into it, you know, to divide up all the, you know, they put in more overhead doors, more man doors, you know, more bathrooms. So their total investment is about $700,000, and it has been life-changing for them. And now they are sitting on about $1 million of tax-free cash, maybe not quite that much, but close to it. And they've come to me now because of the pandemic, and they say, let's do it again. So that's another model that travels, and there's some nice things about that. First of all, you could probably get into that, you know, the micro workshop business, you know, quite inexpensively. And I do think the gig economy is only going to get bigger, even if we get on top of the pandemic in the next year or two.
What are the rental rates in Belleville, like on Front Street?
You can go back.
What rental rates are you talking about for commercial?
Well, I guess if we were to, like, I guess thinking further about that property, right? Like
Which one are you talking about?
Well, even yours, like, what do you hope? What is that? What you mean? Like, what do you think you can get?
Yeah, or just like, I mean, like, you're getting these buildings for a good price, but I know the rents are almost, you know, crazy compared to what you pay for the building.
Yeah, I actually have that, if I can find it for you. Just give me a second. So you didn't really like my industrial
No, I do.
well, immediately we changed back to the Belleville mall. That's fine. My job is to show the menu.
No, that's fine.
And your job is to say, I want that.
That's an interesting idea, and not unlike the thing that I forwarded about the Queen Street project that you forwarded. Anyway, but I'm curious too. Like, what are the rents like?
Yeah, I'm going to give it that too. While I'm looking for that, though, I will mention one more thing to you guys. Just give me a second here if I can find it. There is another riff on that model, that the micro workshop model, that I should tell you about. Just give me a second here.
Well, is there a possibility of, like, we saw a couple of properties, like, for example, we saw like a 6-plex apartment building that was in the middle of basically nowhere. It was on farmland on Dale Road, actually. It seemed almost serendipitous, but you know, it was just, you know, a 6-plex, 3-story apartment building, effectively, and it was on farmland, but there was quite a bit of land with it. And I thought, oh well.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
There's some sheds there, right? There's some old sheds, and I thought,
now
well,
you're thinking.
You know, you could do a workshop here for the tenants or people in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Let me. Now you're thinking out loud, brother. You see this one here?
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
That's Picton, right?
Right.
So what you've just described is a modification of the micro workshop model that I just went through. So let's say you had a 6-plex here, and you had enough land to build a bunch of these workshops. That is a friggin' dynamite combination deal. You definitely give yourself an A+ on that one.
Well, oh yeah.
No, you can. Viraj, keep doing that.
Like all the lessons so far have been, you know,
I'm telling you, that is a dynamite combination. That 6-plex with a bunch of workshops, because the apartment is a problem, and the workshop is the solution. The apartment is you know, it's a cost, and the workshop is a way to make some money. And on my commercial building, which I've turned into workshops, I'm doing that right now as we speak. I can't tell you the number of people who said, hey, can I live in the building too? So I could have an apartment and a workshop. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the zoning for that, but you are absolutely on the right track. This is at the Picton Air Base, and I'm going to show you some more pictures of that in a minute. But you wanted to know about the rents. All right, so let's see if I can find that. I have it in here somewhere. Yeah, here they are. I'll just make it a little bigger. So the rents in Belleville, Dawn did this. My wife did these. She did quite a bit of research with Zubin Gillespie and the other people who were active there, you know, Mark Turner and others. So a 2-bedroom apartment on Front Street rents for around $2,100 plus the tech package plus utilities. A 1-bedroom rents for about $1,500 a month plus tech package. And you'd have no problem putting your tech package into these buildings. You've got that experience. And a little bit of a bigger 1-bedroom. This one's about 645 square feet, rents a little bit more, $1,685 plus $115. The micro suites on the 3rd floor are going to rent for a little bit less. See if I can make that a little bigger. So what do we got? So the micro suites they're not cheap either though. $985 for a micro suite plus $105.
Like a bathroom, right? Like, so it's shared bathroom?
No. They'll each have their own bathroom.
Oh, because I didn't
no,
see.
yeah.
I don't see that in the.
No, you don't see that on the plan because that is the existing condition. That's not what we're building.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's just the existing condition. This plan that you saw here is what we're building. This is actual, these are the architect's plans for floor 2. So that is actually what's going on. This is just the existing condition. I don't have the plan for the 3rd floor yet. The architect's working on that. But no, there's no such thing as a shared bathroom anymore, especially in COVID-19.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was wondering about that.
So $985 plus $105 for the tech package and utilities. And then the bigger studio apartments are $1,185 plus $105 for the tech package plus utilities. Then the ground floor, and by the way, we're doing a combination just like you talked about, Dale. We're going to do a combination on the ground floor of retail space here in the front. There could be 3 units or 2 or 1, I don't know yet. But the rest of the building at the back, we're going to turn into something we call an artisan court. So we're actually going to make it into workshops inside the building. And we also got permission from the city of Belleville to have at least 1 micro suite at grade. That micro suite could be say somebody is running, I don't know, a yoga studio here, and she wants to live in her own apartment right behind her studio. That is a possibility. The other possibility is that could be an Airbnb unit.
Yeah.
At grade, just like the one I stayed in years ago in Venice. So it's pretty exciting. Now, the one thing we don't have on this side of the street is the advantage that Zubin has on the other side of the street, which is that he has the view of the river, right? So we're not going to get $400 a night. There's no way.
So that's the appeal of the property that Mark showed me. All right.
What is the address of the one that you're looking at on the other side of the street?
248. It's right across. 248 and 250. Yeah.
So it's this one here?
The Favorita twisted anchor tattoo, that building.
And you know, so this is the area here that the town of Belleville, city of Belleville, excuse me, is planning to turn into something really special.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. And he was saying there's also potentially money from the city for developing the back side of those buildings. So exterior enhancements and improvements in that space could potentially be facilitated or supported.
So one of the things I'm going to suggest to the town of Belleville, people do think I'm certifiable, Dale, but one of the things I'm going to suggest that they do is they do what they do in Paris. Turn part of that parking lot into a beach.
Yeah, you know, there's one in Toronto called Sugar Beach.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Google Sugar Beach, Toronto. It's where the sugar factory is. It's on the pier. It's a man-made beach with permanent year-round umbrellas. It's right there on the water.
Oh my God, look at that, even in the wintertime.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's hilarious.
Those are permanent umbrellas.
Well, I'm definitely, and that helps because what happened was the mayor in Paris a few years ago said, look, there's some people, obviously wealthy people in France who can go in August, it's pretty hot in Paris. They can leave and they can go to their country properties. But for those who couldn't, they converted, this is just a street along the Seine, and they converted it into a beach. And so what I wanted to suggest is that Belleville do part of this street that way. Can you imagine having patio back here and maybe a couple of glasses of wine or a beer and lying on the beach?
Yeah, check it out. There's some restaurants in that space. It's right by there's like a TV studio. There's a brand new office structure right there and some new condos.
Well, you've given me ammunition.
Yeah, because it's really popular and it's
oh
really
my God, no, this is fantastic. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. After we finish, I'm going to steal all these images. I'm going to steal your idea, and I'm going to send it to the mayor of Belleville.
All right.
He already thinks I'm crazy, but we get along very well. But anyway, coming back to your 248 front, what are they asking for this property?
Well, so so the owner, she runs the La Favorita. So she and her husband owned it for many years, and the Duke Pub. Mark says it's quite the local pub scene there. All your favorite.
Which building is it?
Just right there where the mural is, right there. No, right there.
This one here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they tried to list it at, Raj pulled it up, I think 590 a couple of times, and they're not getting 590. I think they're also trying to sell the business along with it, the restaurant pub.
Yep.
But no one's buying it. Mark thinks that she would take 500 for the whole thing. But her son is a realtor in Toronto and is trying to get a lot more.
Yeah, those Toronto realtors are real pain in the ass.
So, like he said, look, it's probably not worth 500. It's probably worth like 350 plus, but they've done the demo, the demo on the second and third floor. Sorry, third or second? They've done the demo upstairs. Are there 3 floors or 2?
I think there's only 2.
Yeah, they've done the demo. They've got permits in place for 5 apartments.
But what can happen to that parking lot?
Yeah, well, who owns the parking lot?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he said the realtor next door. There's a realtor in the building beside the parking lot.
Century 21.
I think he said is that Century 21?
Because like, if you put windows at the side, is there going to be like a?
Oh no, you won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Just bear with me for a minute. I want to go back to this. All right, so we know where we're at. I want to see if Google has gone on this side of the building.
Well, we tried.
No, they have not.
Yeah.
So what is the back? Well, maybe I can see it a different way. What is the back of the building like?
Well, I'm trying to remember. We went back there.
He was saying about putting.
Did you take any pictures?
Balconies.
No, not at that place because we were looking at the other one. But it's kind of like all the other buildings there, right? There is a back entrance. Oh, he did say the basement has a drive out, so you can drive out from the basement.
No way.
Yeah, and you know, he was saying, look, there's a lot you could do. You know, it's about a 200-foot building. You could split it in half, do a riverside property,
Yeah.
and do the front street side property. The kitchen facilities are in the middle, so you could even do like a shared, possibly kitchen. That's more my idea, I think. But you know, he was just saying, look, the kitchen stuff is kind of in the middle. It's old, but it passes health. So you know, it's
Just hang on a second. I got to show you this, Dale. This is another one of my clients in Gatineau, Quebec. Do you know where Gatineau, Quebec is?
yeah. We have friends that live in Elmer.
Yeah, yeah. So not far from this. So he and his wife bought. Oh, sorry. I don't know where it was. Oh yeah, bought this building here. It's kind of like a one-story building, and it's got a bunch of little apartments in it. Nothing wrong with the building. And his name is Eric Rossman. He's an architect, former student of mine, an architect. And this is me taking a picture of Eric taking a picture. So this is us on the roof of this building that he and Sarah bought. This is the entrance, and you can see it's a very, you know, kind of blah building. I mean, it is what it is. It makes a little bit of money. So Eric calls me up. I haven't heard from him since he was in my class in 2012, and now instead of being, you know, 22 or 23, he's 31 or 32. And he and Sarah bought this building, and he says, Bruce, I want to, you know, learn more about this animation stuff that you teach. I said, great. So I went and had a look at it with them, and there really wasn't that much we could do with it. You know, it is what it is. So I had a few suggestions for him. But as we were leaving, I said, Eric, what the heck is this? Can you see this on the screen, Dale?
Yeah.
So this was the drive-through to the basement, right? And I said, oh, he said, oh, it's just it's an overhead door. It's just it's a crappy basement. I said, well, I want to go see it. So when we went in here, I said to him, hallelujah, brother, we have just found, you know, those little leprechauns with the pot of gold? I said, we just found a pot of gold for you. And he said, what the hell are you talking about? First of all, this building, if there's ever a nuclear war with North Korea, we're going to all hide in the basement of this building. It's just concrete. I mean, it's, you know, we'll be safe. It's like a bunker. But right at the end here is the driveway that goes down, and you can enter the basement there, and it's 10-foot ceilings.
Wow. And
so you can imagine what I said to him. I said to him, you're going to put little workshops down here. And so anyway, so I'll just come back to this picture. So we actually had street chalk, and we went back with street chalk. He ended up with 13 very small workshops here. They're about 235 to 285 square feet each, 13 of them. But you can drive down there. You know, if you're, you know, he's got a lady in there who makes, she's an artist. She makes furniture out of wood pallets. Who knew? I mean, he's got all 13 of them rented. All right, Dale, I'm going to put you to work again. You ready?
yeah, okay.
All right, he's got 13 workshops down there. He didn't get as much as Shaddy got in Kitchener-Waterloo. He got $485 for each workshop, plus $30 for hydro, plus $85 for internet. So what did you get in total?
So 115. Oh, sorry, call's coming in. Hold on. How many units were there? 13?
13, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm not used to this calculator. What's happening? I'm multiplying.
Use your calculator.
I think we'll have to fire him, Viraj.
Okay, so it's $7,800.
Multiply that by 12.
Okay, right. Yes, 93,000.
And multiply again by 0.66.
Okay, so 61,000.
And divided by 0.055.
Right. Wow, so we're at 1.1. How much did you buy it for?
So what was the number you got there?
1.123.
Yeah. So he and Sarah bought the building for $460,000, and they got, after they had, you know, painted it and just, you know, tidied it up a little bit, they got a new appraisal for $515. So it went up a little bit. Then he put the workshops in, and they weren't very expensive. When he got his new appraisal last year, it came in at 1.6 million.
Wow.
Went up by over $1 million.
That's amazing.
And you know, he thinks I walk on water. I said, no, there's only one guy who ever walked on water, and it's not me. But I said, that's what animation can do. And one of the things, Viraj, as we get to know each other a little bit better, one of the things that I think might help your real estate practice possibly is, as you get to know more of these things that I teach, if you think they're worthwhile, is you'll start teaching them to your clients. And once you get a reputation as being somebody who really, you know, like most of the Toronto realtors I know, you know, they if you're representing a buyer, they say, well, you got to make your decision like that. You got to put your offer in like that. No conditions. It's got to be over asking price. You know, they're not really adding a lot of value, in my opinion. And I hope you don't take that wrong, but I don't think they're adding a lot of value. But the realtors in Toronto, and I have quite a few that I've trained who understand the animation techniques, are saying, hey, listen to a buyer, you could buy this house and maybe you could put a basement apartment in, and that might help you, pay your mortgage. You know, if you're a young person, you know, one of my clients in Toronto, she bought, she's a young woman, and she bought a townhouse in downtown Toronto for $1.7 million for a 4-bedroom townhouse. That to me is a lot of money for somebody. She's in her mid-30s, and she and her husband are very successful, but still $1.7 million for a 4-bedroom townhouse. Mind you, it was a very nice townhouse, but doesn't that seem a little bit high to you? But that's Toronto, right? So one of the things that they did with this townhouse, and they were lucky to have it, is it had a garden level door. Viraj, you know what that is?
Level door.
So the townhouse is here, and if you walk around and you go down a few steps, it's got a door to the basement.
Yeah.
And the basement only had I think 6'1" or 6'2" ceiling height. And so I coached them through that process, and they did go down another 2.5 feet. By the way, hand dug. They didn't do it themselves, but you know, the men who did it were fantastic. They were pulling out glass bottles from the 1800s as they excavated down. They actually underpinned the foundation. They went down about 2.5 feet, so quite a bit, and they created this incredible apartment. It's called the Spy Loft in the basement. It's really 1.5 bedrooms, 1 bedroom with a den. And what do you think they get in rent for that? It's like right downtown Toronto.
3,000.
I beg your pardon?
3,000.
They get $3,600 for it.
Wow.
You know, so that pays for a fair bit of your mortgage, right? $3,600. It's really beautiful though. We did some really amazing stuff. Viraj, you probably know this, that you own the subterranean rights, in theory, down to the center of the earth, although it might be a little difficult to dig that far down. And so one of the things that we did with their apartment is they dug down, but they also dug into the backyard. So they extended this building into the backyard below grade. And you're allowed to do that. If you come above grade, you're going to find yourself running into trouble with setbacks. Are you following me?
Yeah.
But they were able to, so the den and the office is actually underneath the garden. And they put glass block all, so when you go out there, it just looks like your backyard. And, but you've got all this glass block, and you go into the lower level. They've got obviously glazing at the front, but now they have this beautiful natural light. It is really fantastic, and it's $3,600 a month that they get. So some of the stuff that I teach, I think, might help you as you build your realtor practice.
Okay.
That's the theory, anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mentioned that it's right now. I'm concerned that we are coming into a very slow period real estate wise, because December is slower anyway because of Christmas, but then the pandemic, January will come. I think a lot of people are going to hold off.
So one of the things that I do, if you don't mind me mentioning a couple things to Viraj that might help, I'm just saying. Viraj, do you have an email list?
Yeah.
Would there be 100 people on that list, 1,000 people on that list?
200.
You have like 200 to 300. Like
So
quality names.
one of the things that, because I don't just coach, real estate investors like Dale. I coach quite a few realtors who are, sick and tired of just, trying to, hey, if you ever think of selling your house, here's my card. So one of the things that a lot of my realtors are doing is they're reaching out to their clients, and 200 or 300 is great. That's all you need, and saying, look, I mean, you don't have to mention my name, but many of them do. I'm studying with Prof Bruce, and a lot of people are building a real estate portfolio so that as they get older, they'll have some independent income through real estate. And if you're interested, give me an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about it. And I teach realtors to when they're asked to do a listing presentation, and I don't know if you've read Sylvia's story in one of my handbooks. I think Dale has it. It's called Business Model Illustrations. Dale, you have that one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story in it, Viraj, called Sylvia's story. I made up her name. That's not her real name. But when I do a listing presentation, and the realtors who work directly with me, when they do it, and I have about 65 realtors running around Ottawa who work with me, when we do listing presentations, I've taught each of them to say, you go into the house and they say, well, we want a bigger house, we're having more kids, or I want a smaller house, I don't need such a big house. But I ask all of my realtors to ask this question: well, have you ever thought about not selling your house? And, maybe refinancing it, buying another one, and keeping this and renting it out, just so you'll have a little bit of real estate, income when you get a bit older. And, sometimes people say, well, look, no, I'm not interested. Are you here to list my house or not? And of course, if somebody says, I want to list my house, you say, absolutely, we're going to do that, and we're going to get it sold for you. But if, some of my realtors do door hangers. You guys know what door hangers are?
Yeah, something you leave at the door.
Yeah, it's just, it's like a little brochure you hang on the door, right? Mm-hmm. They do door hangers that say, the headline is, don't sell this house.
Okay.
And you'd be amazed at how many calls they get. What kind of realtor are you? Don't sell this house. Well, we would like to talk to you about, maybe instead of selling your house, refinancing and pulling some cash out and buying something else so that you can develop a bit of a real estate portfolio. Oh, I'd be very interested in talking to you. That is a very interesting conversation. And about a third of the time, it works. And about another third of the time, they say, well, that's really interesting, but we just want to list and sell the house. And then they list with you. So right. We have found, Viraj, that has been fantastic. Now, in the pandemic, you can't go door knock, that is for sure. But you could send out an email with a subject heading, don't sell your house.
Well, I'm just thinking about, we've been talking about how to penetrate our local area. I know we're running out of time, but how we can penetrate our local neighborhood, because it's quite active. And I think if you think about the property values have gone up 20%, something like that in the last year, so at a campaign like that to say, don't sell your house, the house has gone up like 20%. Yeah. You could do something else instead.
Yeah, don't sell it. And Dale, if you are successful, and by the way, this property that you showed me at 248 Front Street, I think you should think about making an offer on that. And it should be conditional. Don't do what I did.
No,
don't do what I did. But what I would suggest, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But especially because you got that drive-in thing. If that drive-in thing works like it did for Sarah and Eric Rossman, holy smokes, you guys will be sitting on, you'll have a river of cash, you'll be having baths in your cabin.
Right into the Moira River.
I mean, you know, it was a life-changing moment for Eric and Sarah when they got the refinancing and they were able to pull out, you know, a very significant amount of money in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is because they are now buying a lot more real estate. And that is the key for you, Viraj. If you can help, like one of the first coaching clients I had, you know, when I left the University of Ottawa, I was very fortunate. A doctor, a dentist came to see me and he wants some coaching because he likes real estate. That doctor, over the next 5.5 years, bought 307 properties through Century 21. 300. Well, he makes $3 million a year, Dale.
Yeah, but okay.
So he can. And I had 2 of my agents for 5.5 years. He was their only client. He bought 307 because we had set a goal for him. I'll just explain how that worked. His first name is John. And so John, I said, John, let's work backwards. What is your goal from real estate? You know, most of the people I talk to, they want to make $10,000 a month or $15,000 a month. No problem. Let's work backwards. So he said, I'd like to make $900,000 from my real estate portfolio. And when he came to see me, he was 46 or 47. So he had an ambitious goal. And he'd like to retire because dentistry is pretty difficult physically, you know, after you turn 55 or 60. I'd like to retire at 60. And he was 46. So I would like, you know, 900,000. I said, well, that's not hard. And so we did the numbers that he could buy a house with a basement apartment or a side yard apartment, and he could make about 30,000 of net operating income a year. So net operating income means after he's paid off his mortgages. So if each kind of duplex that he buys produces 30,000 and he wants 900,000, well, you know, he only needs 30 of these properties and he's at his goal. Well, we said, Bruce, you didn't understand. I want $900,000 of income a month. I said, I definitely didn't understand. So when we worked backwards, it was 300 properties basically that he needed. So I said, well, this is very ambitious. And we were making, for 5.5 years, we were making 7, 8, 9, 10 offers a month and closing on 4 or 5. It went on and on and on every, you know, and at some point when you're doing this, as prices go up, as animations go on, as cash flow goes up, it becomes, you know, the doctor doesn't have to keep writing checks. He just keeps refinancing. And when he got to 300 properties, I called John and I said, John, you have to stop now. You know, now you're 52 and I want you to change your approach. I want you to switch your approach from acquisition to paying off debt. So we changed, but he said, I'm having fun, you know, and your realtors really like doing it. I said, I know they do, but we set a goal. You have now gone over that goal and you should stop. Okay. And he did stop. I said, come on, have discipline. And I said, the one thing I don't want you to do with your portfolio now that it's worth a few $100 million, 150 million anyway, is I don't want you to buy an NHL team. And he burst out laughing. And my 2 realtors who were working for, you know, they were a little upset. I said, guys, if we always put our clients first, we're always going to have clients. So don't worry about it. I got lots of other clients, maybe not wanting 307 properties, but we have lots of others. So come on, we'll find other work for you to do. This has been a gravy train for you guys for 5.5 years. That's it. And so we changed all of John's amortization periods to 11 years. Wow. So as the mortgages came up, we shortened the you know, how long does it take to pay a 30-year mortgage? 30 years. So John will be on track to have 307 homes paid off. It might be 62 rather than 60, but he'll have 307 properties, and he will certainly have at least $900,000 a month in free cash flow. He's you know, he lives in a different income bracket than most of us. But what I'm getting at is that you don't need to find many of those clients, Viraj. You know, even just one of those could make a big difference.
Well, we have potentially, well, there's someone like that that's in your portfolio, that has a portfolio of properties.
And what I was getting at is that those properties that he or she purchases doesn't have to all be in Toronto. With the doctor, his focus, because we started this quite a few years ago now when I left the university, his focus was in 3 markets, Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver. But those markets have been so picked over that if I were starting again with John, we just go and buy them in Belleville or Cobourg, but not 10 places, right, Viraj? Like it has to be a tight geography for property management. The other thing that we did was we set up a property management company because there's no way the doctor's going to manage this thing. So we have a property management arm now that manages about 700 doors, and it's very profitable. And that's committed monthly recurring revenues. So I'm not saying that you should do anything like that, but as we go through this coaching thing, if you were interested in that, I will show you, if you're interested, in how to build a property management company that prints friggin' money. I mean, it just prints money. And it's a natural outgrowth of being what I call an investment realtor. And the demand for investment realtor services, including property management, is unparalleled today. There is no limit to the amount of demand that you will find in your neighborhood for this kind of service if you're interested in doing it. If you're not interested, if it's not something you're passionate about, don't do it. But if you are, I will teach you all of that, if you want.
And you'll be with Dale.
No, I understand that. No, but I meant together. But
Yeah.
I will show you some things about residential leasing and residential property management and commercial, if you get into any commercial, that you will never learn from anybody else. And that is no exaggeration. Dale, I think on this property, you should go tie it up. Can I make a few suggestions?
Sure.
I think you should offer, you know, $405,500. I think you should offer to close this thing, you know, the last week of January or the first week of February. I think you should ask for a 30-day conditional period. The conditions are going to be financing. It's going to be building inspection, and you know, a couple of other things, but not many conditions. I think financing and building inspection is probably all you need. But this building has tremendous potential. And, you know, if you could tie it up with a conditional period of 30 days, which you might be able to do, in that 30 days, I suspect we could find the financing to do this. I suspect we could come up with the highest and best use. I suspect we could come up with a pretty good handle on what the, you know, this animal might look like when it's finished. This one might actually be better than the one we bought.
Well, don't take it from me.
Oh, I would never do that. As Viraj knows, you can't play both sides of the street. You won't have any clients. Your reputation will be in the sewer. I would never do that. I would cut my arm off before. I hope you were joking, because I would never do that. Gentlemen, it has been a great pleasure. I've recorded this session. It's going to be downloaded to my computer in 2 minutes and uploaded. And don't forget, Dale, you and Viraj owe me a mid-month report. So I expect to hear back from you. And if you're going to make an offer on this property, after this call is over, I am going to send you a typical deal point sheet that you and Viraj should look at and create your own deal points. And I want to review that before you put the offer in.
Okay, I think then, based on the strength of your recommendation, I'll tee up with Mark to go see it, because we haven't, like tomorrow or Saturday.
And what are you going to do?
I'll take pictures. I can, if you're around, I can video you in or whatever, but I'll take pictures for sure.
Take pictures. Yeah.
Would you recommend, one question, I know you need to go, would you recommend meeting the seller? Apparently she owns the building, she works there.
I'm usually very good on that. As long as you're comfortable with doing that, I think that's a great idea.
So you recommend I should meet her? Like
absolutely, absolutely. I do. I bought this building across the street from a very unpleasant realtor, one of the most unpleasant realtors I've ever met. And I've met some really bad ones.
Mhm.
And the sellers were worse. So, you know, but, you know, I can be charming, even if I don't like people. And so be charming, but do not tell them what your plan is for this building.
No.
You know, you go, well, I'm not sure what I'll do here, but it's quite interesting. You know, you want to be positive, you want to be friendly, you want to be charming, you are charming. But you definitely don't want to say, oh, I could do workshops here and I can do
Yeah.
$400 a night Airbnbs here. Oh my God, the price will go up. So don't bid against yourself, okay?
Okay.
All right, but I'll send you a typical deal sheet and you should work on that. But Dale, my dad said, you know, let 20 deals go by, but if the right one shows up, go and grab it. And by the way, he was very politically incorrect. He says the same thing about women.
Right. Okay.
All right, I certainly would not repeat that. You know, but that was my dad for you. You know, I mean, he came from a different era, right?
Do you have 2 minutes, or do you have something now?
Well, I do have another call coming up. What's up?
Well, I just you saw our balance sheet. So in our current situation, do you feel like, do we have some options here to play with?
So I did have a slide deck that we missed out on. I worked very closely with the nicest old couple you'll ever meet, Denise and Stuart MacPherson.
Okay.
They're experts in RRSP mortgages.
Right.
So you cannot do self-directed non-arm's length mortgages in Canada. Not really.
Right.
People will tell you you can do it, but they're lying to you.
Okay.
It's very difficult. So what Denise and Stuart do, it's really clever. And I only have, because I've got this call coming up at 1:15, so I better get going.
Okay.
But what Denise and Stuart do is this. I'll tell you how it works. I have an RRSP mortgage on a chicken coop in a small town in Ontario. I do. And so I wanted to buy another property. And, you know, I wanted to do a self-directed non-arm's length transaction. It's impossible. The cost from an accounting legal point of view, and you probably never actually get it done. So I said, no, I'm not doing that. So what I did with help from Denise, and they don't charge very much, it's ridiculously how little they charge, is I loaned $115,000 to a young man who has he has a real, honest to God, chicken coop in his backyard that's, you know, an actual going commercial concern for egg laying. So I loaned him, I think, $115,000 from my RRSP account. And then he loaned me $114,000 to buy another building from his RRSP account.
Okay.
And that is kind of quasi-legal, if you know what I mean, because you're really skirting the law. But we did the deals on different days and different amounts. So if we ever get asked, oh no, I loaned him, $115,000 to help him build his chicken coop. And then a couple of days later, lo and behold, he loaned me a little bit of money to buy another townhouse.
Okay.
And now Denise and Stuart do it even a little bit more subtly than that. They do with 3 parties. So I would help this young fellow with his chicken coop. This guy would help somebody else with their townhouse, and those people would help me with my townhouse. So listen, I have hundreds of clients doing it across Canada. It is a little bit of a dodgy thing, but we have had no problems at all. We've been doing it now for, I think, 5 or 6 years. And Denise and Stuart are lovely people. So if you wanted to do that, you have like $450,000, I think, in your personal balance sheet on your RSPs. You could buy this building without any partners. You would just kind of circulate the money. And I put in each of my deals, not only power of sale, but foreclosure. Remember I did this yesterday? So I said to the young fellow whose chicken coop I have a mortgage on, the second mortgage on, I said, by the way, if you ever default on this mortgage, I'm going to own the chicken coop and your house, because I don't believe in power of sale. I'm just going to own his property. He said, no, I'm never going to default on it. But I said, if you do, just so you know, I'm putting in foreclosure provisions there. And he said, well, I'm going to do that to you as well for your townhouse. I said, that's fine, no problem. If you want to own my townhouse, I'll own your chicken coop. But the wrong time to sell a property is when it's in trouble. So if I've done this lending when I had money, I would do that, but I always had foreclosure in there. So if somebody got into trouble and I had to take the property back, I would put it in my name, I'd fix it up, maybe I'd keep it, or I'd sell it at the right time. But I would never let it go power sell. That just stigmatizes the hell out of it.
Okay.
So absolutely, if you make an offer on this property and you want to get your RSPs involved, you'd have no problem at all buying this on your own, in my opinion.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.